Talk.
Michelle, you can start if you want. That's great.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. All right, we're good. I'm glad that worked out. 105.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Facebook. I'm Michelle Quesada, senior reporter at WPTV, along with my colleague, Matt Sczesny. Hi, Matt. We are here this afternoon talking to you during your lunch hour about home insurance. And we have already read the headlines. 50,000 homeowner policies are getting canceled across the state of Florida. We've learned that 3 major companies were approved to do this. So if you haven't gotten a letter in the mail, consider yourself lucky. If not, there are options for you. And Matt, you have been receiving a lot of information from people who this has happened to. Kind of tell me about who's reached out to you.
Yeah, it started in, first of all, good afternoon, Michelle. It started late winter. I heard from a gentleman down in Boynton Beach who said, hey, my homeowner's insurance just shot up $1,000 a year, and I never put a claim in, and I've been living in my house for years and years. What's going on? And so we went down and talked to him, looked at his paperwork, and indeed his company had just for no reason raised his premium, but we found out there is a reason. In fact, there are a couple reasons why this is happening. We spoke with Tasha Carter, who is the consumer advocate for insurance for the state of Florida. And not surprisingly, one of the reasons is losses from hurricanes. Michael and Irma combined piled up losses for insurance companies of over $20 billion. So that's a lot of money gone right there. The other reason, which may be a surprise to some, is litigation through fraud. The way it was explained to me, this is when contractors show up at homes, offer to do an inspection and say, hey, I found storm damage. Let's see if your insurance company pays for it. And if they say no, they'll sue them. And so it turns out, from what I read, about 70% of these fraudulent claim lawsuits are being generated out of the state of Florida. That's for the entire country, 70%. So it is clearly a problem here. The consumer advocate says this insurance market is very unstable right now. You did mention, Michelle, the 3 companies recently that were canceling some 50,000 policies. I was told last year, 90 companies operating in the state of Florida had asked for rate increases. So this had been telegraphed through government that this was indeed happening. And now it's a real problem. Everyone's getting these notices.
Absolutely. And if you haven't been canceled, you're seeing the rate hike for sure in many areas. I do want to bring in Dan Hauser because he lives in Stewart and he just got that dreaded letter from his insurance company letting him know that his policy is getting canceled. Hi, Dan. How are you?
Hi, how are you guys doing today?
Good. Thank you for joining us. If you want to tell us just a little bit about when you got the letter, what did it say, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so received a letter late last week. I've never put in a claim with my homeowner's insurance policy, so it's not like there was something on that end of things. Basically what they told me is because of corporate restructuring, they were dropping myself and 20,000 other policyholders throughout the state of Florida. And unfortunately, I was one of those 20,000, and here I am now talking to you guys.
Are you with Gulfstream?
I am with Gulfstream, yes.
And Gulfstream is one of the 3 those companies that were approved to drop insurance policies for homeowners. For those of you who are joining us on Facebook, by the way, I'm reading your comments. I hear, I'm just reading right now, Terry also adding that, yes, her premiums also went up $1,000 a year, never had a claim in 23 years. So she has a very similar situation to you. Dan, you said you had never filed a claim before. Please go ahead and ask us your questions about this because Matt and I are actually going to dive into this topic today in a special segment on our newscast at 5:30. And we're going in depth talking about, how we got to this point, what is happening and what you can do about it. So we definitely want to be able to answer your questions. Karen Ballinger also saying, yes, she had a premium raise for $600, never had a claim. And, Dan, real quick, once you got this letter, did you start, talking to your insurance agent? What are they telling you is out there when you do get quotes from other companies?
Yeah, so I immediately reached out to my insurance agent. Obviously, I have a mortgage with escrow, so that throws everything out of whack too, because my mortgage rate was fixed to a price based off of my insurance premiums, which now, as I'm learning very quickly, it's very, very hard to even find anyone who will write policies now for Florida. And when they do, those prices are significantly higher. like I said, I've reached out to my agent who is in the process of trying to find me some new quotes. I've also reached out to some companies who I reached out to when I originally purchased my homeowners insurance that might have, come in with quotes a little bit higher than Gulfstream did at the time, or companies that just, for whatever reason, we didn't go with them. And I'm calling them now, and a lot of them are telling me, we only have one company who can even write policies anymore, or, there's nobody really taking on new policies, or we have a company that'll write policies, but they won't write them until after July 1st, which would mean I would have to go, at least a week or so without any sort of homeowners insurance at all. And, fingers crossed that nothing bad would happen during that time period. So it's very much been a struggle. And the ones who have gotten back to me with quotes have been significantly higher than they were a year or two ago. We're talking thousands and thousands of dollars higher.
We're seeing double premiums, double, triple. The most common is between 50 to 30% increase, but a lot of people in different parts of Florida are seeing their premiums double, their rates double or triple in some cases.
Yeah,
absolutely. We're talking several thousands of dollars difference.
Yeah, I just saw a comment from someone who says they're a lender, and it's actually hurting home buyers trying to come into the market. So, Dan, I asked you, how many companies do you think you contacted looking for?
So I'm still early on in the process. Obviously, there was a lot of shock involved in the fact that, like I said, we never filed a claim, never been a late payment, paid on time in full for everything. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I did was I contacted my agent who also received the same letter I did, and gave him some time to kind of put some stuff together. And then while I'm waiting to get that information back, I've just today alone, before speaking with you this morning, I probably have already reached out to 3 or 4 different companies, and I've got a list of probably another 4 or 5 that I'll be reaching out to after we finish speaking now.
I asked that because the fellow I talked to in Boynton Beach ended up contacting 11 companies on his own, and not all of them returned his messages. And, he eventually did find something that was definitely cheaper than the rate hike, but it took a lot of digging, and it took weeks and weeks for him to finally get there. So I don't think you expect this to be an easy process for you.
And to your point, about that comment, there was the comment about the lender and this hurting new home buyers. So I just, interviewed a local insurance agent this week, and he's saying that in these cases, you have a current homeowner who is covered by their, insurance, has an insurance policy. They sell their home, and now that same insurance company won't cover the new buyer, even though it's the same home they've been insuring for, however many years. They're finding that they just, like you said, Dan, they don't want to write new policies. They don't want to get new clients in because of this situation. I want to go real quick and listen to a clip of the interview that we had with Mark Friedlander. He's a spokesperson for the Insurance Information Institute, and he also touches on the mortgage issue as well. So I want to make sure we can listen to what he had to say. Oh, do we have audio?
35%.
We may not have audio coming out of that right now. Is it just really low? I'm not sure. So just to kind of summarize, what Mark is saying here, he's talking about the fact that you don't want to have a lapse in your coverage, right? So when you get this letter, you have 45 days to find new insurance. And it's very important that you don't have a lapse in this coverage if you have a mortgage, because at that point, your mortgage is going to say, well, we're going to go ahead and shop for you, and we're going to get your insurance. And this could be way higher than what you planned to purchase at this point. There's also the situation that when your mortgage shops for your insurance, they're shopping to cover their loan amount. They're not necessarily shopping to cover your property value. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking for these quotes.
Hey, go ahead, Dan. Yeah.
You mentioned the 45 days. I mean, yes, obviously I'm grateful that they didn't just say, hey, tomorrow you're done. But, in this current market, with the fact that tens of thousands of people are also being dropped and there's only so many policies that are being written, 45 days isn't a lot. It sounds like a lot of time, but it's not a lot of time. This is a weeks and weeks and weeks long process. I mean, even when I first got this insurance policy, when I first bought my home, it took weeks to do it. And that was in a time when it was a lot easier to get policies written. So now, it's not like I can just make one phone call and have this done tomorrow. I mean, as we discussed earlier, this is going to be a weeks long process. And it's almost like you're already starting to count down the minutes and worrying about, am I going to be able to get a new policy to come in before as you mentioned, not only would my mortgage company only get a policy for what they lended me,
Right.
but in addition to that, there's no incentive for them to find me the best possible price. They're just going to get me the first thing they can find written, and that could be 3, 4, 5 times what I was paying.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Jessica Mark brings up a good point too, that there are companies that will write new premiums for a roof over 15 years old, but you may need a roofing certification to get coverage. So some of these companies are also asking you to make upgrades to your home, right? Which you may or may not be able to do within 45 days.
Right. That's going to be hard. And that's one of the things that the state consumer advocate was recommending. There was a couple things for people who don't have canceled policies but have higher premiums. And one of them is to review the policy. Make sure you got the coverage that you really want. You don't have extra coverage you don't need. Also look for some premium discounts that you may be overlooking. And then, of course, there's the mitigation where you could do things. I mean, a roof is expensive. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, impact windows are expensive also. But these are the things that can actually bring premiums down in the long run. Also having, as you mentioned, having someone come back out and look at the roof, especially if it's a 15 years or older, and it might, put a dent in that. The other option out there, and I know we're going to get a lot of comments, of course, is Citizens. This insurance crisis apparently is driving so many people to Citizens. I was told by the consumer advocate in Tallahassee that 4,000 new policies a week are being written by Citizens right now. So it is the insurer of last resort. It is not popular. I realize that. Dan, did you ever even consider Citizens?
The first time around, not at all. I mean, now as you mentioned, it's the policy of last resort. Obviously, it's something that I'm now starting to consider. I would like to try to avoid going that route, but at the end of the day, if it means not having a policy or having a policy, obviously I will go ahead and give Citizens a go.
Yeah,
I think Allison also commented that that's the only insurance group that will insure her house because it's a 1947 house, even though she's replaced the windows, roof, everything. And Matt, do you want to explain a little bit what is Citizens Insurance? So people who don't really know.
It's the government. It's basically the government-supported insurance company, and so for that reason alone, it doesn't have a lot of popularity. It also is kind of a very basic insurer. It doesn't give you a lot of options for insuring your home, and so. And there's also a lot of concern about Citizens exposure in Florida. I mean, a major hurricane could literally liquidate the entire funds of the company, and then that would leave a lot of people out in the cold, so to speak. And that's a fear a lot of people have as well. Plus, people are just more comfortable with going with private companies. So I will tell you this, the gentleman I spoke to down in Boynton Beach, as I mentioned, called around, and I saw a comment from Carol. There it is again. And this is that fella down there had this luck with this relatively new insurer that's come into Florida called KIN, K-I-N, all capital letters. They're based out of Chicago. And they are writing policies in Florida. And they actually have some sort of, launched a new landlord insurance in Florida. But they have I'm just going to read the statement they gave me. To keep rates affordable, we've developed a proprietary platform that allows us to price risks in real time and ingest more data than other competitors. It may be worth a try for some people, and it may be worth a try for you, Dan, but there are companies out there that are actually coming into the state of Florida. They're new, and they are offering and writing policies, and that's why it's worth doing a lot of homework here.
Yeah. And, another point too, to bring up, and just talking to some of our local insurance experts, they said, really pay attention to the kind of companies that you're getting quotes from, look at their financial strength, because you don't want to end up getting a company to cover your home. And in 12 months or 14 months, you're back to square one and you're looking for an insurance company again. This can continue happening. As we've seen, there are going to be more companies that are going to either be canceling policies, shedding policies because they're trying to meet the requirements of reinsurance. And so, for those of you who are just joining, we're talking about this home insurance crisis, if you will. In Florida, 50,000 policies are being dropped, and homeowner policies, and many people are seeing huge increases in their rates for the next year. Matt, if you want to talk a little bit again about how we got to this point. I know you mentioned
Right.
some of the issues we had with obviously costs and claims from Hurricane Michael, Hurricane Irma drove up the cost. And then we've also seen unscrupulous companies that have gone out and tied up the system with litigation as well.
Sure. And again, there was a comment I wrote down from Beverly earlier that said the insurance commission approved these hikes. That's absolutely true. In fact, there were about 90 companies last year that had asked to raise rates in the state of Florida, and they were approved. So chances are a lot of people got caught up in this. They may not have seen it coming, but it certainly was something that was approved and legal. So yes, there are mounting losses from hurricanes Irma and Michael. As we had mentioned, it was over $20 billion. I think it was even closer to $29 billion were the losses between those two hurricanes. And then, of course, there's the fraud and the litigation. 70% of the lawsuits against insurance companies in the country are generated out of the state of Florida. So clearly there's an issue going on here that needs to be addressed. And the state's insurance consumer advocate said the market's very unstable right now. So you have a lot of these companies raising rates on people, canceling policies in some cases. And then you have some of these other companies that are just starting to come into Florida. They see an opportunity. And so I think that's where the advantage comes for people like Dan with some of these newer companies coming in. They realize that people are shopping around and, you might get a break. It may not take you back to where you were a year ago, but it might be less than what the rate hikes you're facing now.
And Jill Supka just put in a comment saying she's getting that wind mitigation inspection this week I'm assuming to meet her insurance requirements to be able to get covered. And a lot of people are going to be doing that. They're going to be checking to see if they can get inspectors back out to their homes, any mitigation factors they can come up with. One of the things that got us to this point too, and Matt mentioned the litigation issues. I don't know if you all saw, and I'm sure it happened in your neighborhood, or of someone that it happened in their neighborhood. You had a ton of roofing companies out, sometime after the hurricanes passed, they go door to door trying to solicit business and tell you, okay, well, a certain percentage of your roof is damaged, so you qualify for a free roof, and you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is sign an assignment of benefits. That means we'll take care of it. We're going to deal directly with your insurance company. We're going to get the claim filed and we're going to get the payment directly from them. And most of these homeowners don't even know that what happens is when they took these claims to the insurance companies, they're saying, whoa, wait a second, this is way more than what we would pay out for this type of repair. We can't pay this. And so these roofing companies, contractors pair up with an attorney. They take the insurance company to court. And now this is tied up in litigation. And, in 2019 alone, I believe it was $3 billion came out of the state of Florida for litigation costs only in 2019. And that was a huge increase from 2018. I remember in November of 2018, I think it was back at like $1 billion where they were at. And then now you're seeing 2019. Almost $3 billion. So a lot of money going to litigation. And, the saying goes, if it's a deal too good to be true, right, then you better look into it because nothing is for free out here. So,
Jennifer just wrote about reinsurance, and that's the other factor too. Is the reinsurance industry has raised rates. These are companies that insure the insurance companies, and so their rates have gone up. And I know it's kind of mind bending and kind of makes you angry, but it's a trickle down effect. One of the other things that I noticed. Talking to people about this, and this is becoming quite popular in the state of Florida for people who own their homes outright, is they are self-insuring now. They are dropping insurance companies completely and then taking what they normally would pay for a premium and putting it in some sort of investment account where it's liquid and they can get to it quick. And, as one guy told me, he says, I could save enough for a new roof in about 2 or 3 years. And I just keep pouring money into the account. The only pitfall to that, which we got from officials in Tallahassee, because obviously it raises a red flag for them, is if we do get a devastating hurricane, and replacing a home is a much different story than just replacing a roof. And you would have to save a ton of money in order to, withstand the costs of some very serious damage. But self-insuring is becoming very popular, especially in the southeastern part of the state right now.
Yeah, it's making sure you're not replacing your home at the cost that you bought it at, right? You're not replacing it with what the value is today. And as we've seen how lumber prices have gone up, I mean, people are paying way more money for their roof, for a new roof now than they were, a year or 2 years ago. Dan, looking into these quotes, I know you said that you have until the end of June I think to make this decision and well, not really make a decision, right? At this point, you're kind of like at the mercy of what quote you get back.
Yeah.
Is there something that you're trying to do differently, like looking at these quotes? Are you going to change your coverage at all? Are you considering changing your coverage if you had to get to that point to get a policy?
If I had to, I mean, at this point, I'm basically just going to do whatever I can to be able to get a policy at a price that I can afford. That's not going to completely break the bank. Just in by this time next month, so I don't have a lapse in that coverage, and I don't have to deal with the mortgage company taking it into their own hands. But I'd like to thank whoever it was who mentioned. I believe it was Kin. I was not familiar with that company. I will definitely add that to my list of companies I'll reach out to here in the next coming days for sure.
Yeah, that came in the comments, and it came in from one of the people I interviewed that they had success with that. So, yeah, I mean, we're not endorsing that company, and we're not saying go there. But I will tell you that I've heard from people, including here on this message board, that they're having luck with that company. And that's just one of some of the new companies that are coming into Florida offering policies. So,
and also, if you're talking to your insurance agent and you're not really getting anywhere, shop around and try to talk to a different agent, because there are certain companies that can talk to over 40 different, home insurance carriers, and then others that are much more limited in who they work with. So I would say shop around just so you get a good idea of the market before you go ahead and make a decision or pretty much, get into a situation where you may not get the coverage that you really need for your home. You don't want that to happen, especially this year. We saw hurricane season starting earlier this year. Granted, we don't get those strong storms until later on in the season, so you have some time. But if you have a mortgage, you definitely have a lot to lose there if you can't get it in time.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've like I said, my insurance agent is working on it for me, but I've also reached out today and over the last few days to some other agents to start that process as well, because, like, as we discussed, 45 days might sound like a lot of time, but it's really not. And unfortunately, it's not like I already have an existing policy and I can shop around and look for the perfect one. At this point, I've just got to find something that's going to be able to cover me and be a price that I can afford and run with it. Because we've got a ticking time clock going at the moment.
Well, Dan, you're not alone. I mean, there's a lot of people commenting. I've seen increases from some of these people at $15,000, $2,000 a year. It's something many people right now are dealing with, and I wish you a lot of luck searching around and trying to find a solution, or at least a cheaper solution than what your current company is offering you right now.
Absolutely. And we're Matt and I are diving into this at 5:30 today. We have a special segment of our newscast dedicated to this issue. We are going to answer many of the questions that you probably still have right now, give you options, explain in depth how we got to this point and what exactly is going on with the home insurance situation right now. But we definitely appreciate all of your comments. We appreciate that you took the time today to talk with us. We just wanted to share what we're working on for today at 5:30. And of course, as always, you can go to WPTV.com. We have more information on there. And we also have a really nice link on there that can also help you out when you're trying to figure out quotes and insurance rates. So Thank you all so much for joining us, Dan. Good luck. Thank you again for sharing your situation with us.
Thank you for having me on today and allowing me to talk about that. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks.
Bye-bye.